I'm really building? Is that the right product? That philosophy is still the same thing, right? Are you building the right product and verifying it is being built correct? If that mindset remains the same, then you are just going to keep evolving, as you correctly said, to find the answer for it.
I think that is more of the designing aspect of testing. You're kind of combining the design and testing. I think testing even today is given a set of specification or a business process. Is it working fine from an end user perspective? I don't think that paradigm can change, and there would be, you're invading into the design territory at some point of time. So that's my viewpoint, actually.
And something is completely maybe beyond that in a way. If we think of ourselves just as testers, we think somewhat narrowly, but if we broaden our perspective on this and think software engineering, I think there's some interesting things to consider here. If you think about movies like Minority Report, Blade Runner, books like Neuromancer, they were all predicting a world that we're about to live in. Now, hopefully, the world that we live in is not as dystopian as those three predictions were, but from a technological point of view, we already, according to some people that are looking at this, are getting very close to being able to use big data to do predictive analysis of crime, okay? So does that mean that it's now time to start doing predictive analysis and saying, hey, you are going to be involved in an assault next week, let's lock you up? So I don't know who's supposed to think about that. I don't know, it's not clearly a tester role, but the thing that's kind of worrisome to me is it's not clearly anybody's role right now. And this technologies are just kind of spinning out there and stuff is happening and we're seeing where it goes, and it's kind of interesting and fun and scary all at once.
Yeah, I add my 2p worth, then we'll move on. I think all of that is all valid stuff. When you're above a certain age, and I'm not that old, but I do recall when the death of the mainframe was prophesied and mini-computers were going to take over. And then PCs were going to rule the world. And what next? Client-server was going to eliminate everything or replace everything. And then the web came along, and that was going to replace everything. So, and services were going to replace everything. And then whatever. So every now and then there's a technological shift, and we have to rethink our approach to software testing, QA, call it what you like, system testing, the whole thing. And that's mostly about coping while the tools catch up, while our methods and approaches catch up, and we figure a better way of testing. And then a new range of technology comes along. I don't think this is anything new, okay? Forget the technology. What I think is new is it's been a technology-driven industry. I think what's changing that's more significant now, I think as Rex was implying, is it's going to become a much more socially driven thing, and we have to have responsibility from the people who are managing this data. That's different. I don't think we've ever been in this kind of deep water before. That's kind of a bit scary for me. That's why I think big data is going to affect everybody. We all have a say. Let's move on to something more lightweight. Please. Who's got the mic? Oh, sorry, sir, you've got the mic, yes.
Hi, I'm Mithun. The question is certifications. How does it really add value to the organization? Does it really add value? And how would a tester, should he really go for it? Go for any certification?
I don't know if you could, do you want to repeat the question?
I think I want to answer this. The same question was asked somewhere else. But there are 2 points of it. One is when you come into an organization, actually. So some point of time when you select testers for an organization, you typically look at a certification or some qualification being there. So that becomes an entry criteria. So even from a client, when you're bidding for projects, you say you're certified, it does help. So that's first thing. But does it help in your performance appraisal within the company? No. Once you come in, I don't think you having a certification or a label, it doesn't help. It helps in the first point of entry with a client or internal organization. But after that, it's your performance. That's
does it add value to the organization? Apart from maybe gaining clients, is there any other?
I will skip that question, maybe Rex can.
So here's your question, because I don't think people heard the question. Does a certification add value to an organization who adopt it?
Yeah, so I wouldn't have spent, as I said, countless hundreds or maybe thousands of hours that I could have been making money volunteering for the ISTQB if I didn't think it did. So what are some of the things that we hear from adopters of the certification in terms of the value? One of them has to do with common language. We have had a tremendous problem in software testing with this, what I refer to as a Tower of Babel problem, which might not translate very well into Eastern cultures, but it has to do with, you got 20 people on a project, you ask any one of those 20 people what a test plan is and what's in it, and every one of them has their own opinions and they're all different. And any one of those opinions can be valid, but we can't have a conversation about work products and artifacts and activities unless we agree on what those are. So there's common language as part of it. Another part of it has to do with, as I said before, there are many known best practices that have been in place for many years in software testing, and unfortunately the majority of people that are getting paid to be testers don't know them. And we've seen situations where organizations pick up one or two basic techniques, things as simple as equivalence partitioning or boundary value analysis, and see 40–50% increases in efficiency in their testing just because they stopped doing things that they didn't need to do anymore. There have been plenty of case studies on this. If you go to the American Software Testing Qualification Board website, astqb.org, you can access some concrete ways in which the ISTQB certification has added value for organizations. It definitely does. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It is a human creation. Like any other human creation, there are flaws. And if anybody wants to pick out things in the syllabus or the glossary and point to it and go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, you can do that. But you can focus on the flaws, or you can focus on the bigger picture of how it's actually benefiting the industry, and I think that overwhelms any of the small-scale criticisms that can be leveled at it.
So only Rex has
the answer is an absolute yes. They are required. So I think all of us voiced the same opinion here.
Okay.
I would like to add one more thing to this. So I think in the older cases, I think the testing was not in a lot of our curriculum. It was not there. The scenario is changing. I know there are many Indian universities, Chinese universities where now testing is part of the syllabus. If you are in computer science, testing is part of the syllabus. And actually tomorrow I'm actually going to Salem to an engineering college to take a class on this. So we, from industry, we are going to college and talking to them what actually industry. There's a textbook, but we are also teaching them. Now, some of them, actually, they are actually going to write some of the certification tests. These students are going to also write written test. But so now, once it is part of the syllabus, yeah, I think that makes a criteria that now you have a common language as Rex told. So,
and courses were accredited and delivered at those times, 1998. And we developed a practitioner syllabus as well, which was a longer course, a bit more advanced, whatever. I think, so my criticism is it's not moved on quickly enough. I don't think we're much further ahead now than we were about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, because what's happened is it's been refined and refined to account for the fact there are so many international interests that all have to be satisfied. It's a bit like the European Union, and you guys may know not much about it, but as soon as you get involved in a committee, the productivity of that group suddenly diminishes dramatically. And I think that's kind of part of the problem we've had. I'm very impatient, okay? And I want more. I'm very pro-certification, but I definitely want it to move on faster and be more useful. It is of value, but I want to see it being much more valuable. That's my challenge to the board.
Well, can I respond to
please,
that?
Please,
I think we, the ISTQB, have brought out 2 expert syllabi in the last 2 years, with 2 new ones coming in the next year or so.
Yep.
We're now going to have add-ons starting with Agile at the foundation level. There'll be add-ons at the advanced level. We'll probably be introducing 1 or maybe 2 new bodies of knowledge or syllabi, whatever you want to call it, per year. Okay. So if anything, it's going to be moving almost too fast in a sense of we, the ISTQB, are likely to get way out in front of these interests, which I agree should not be driving it, but interests such as training providers and so forth. So if anything, the dissatisfaction is likely to be people jumping up and down going, hey, you've got this great syllabus, where are the training courses? Well, training providers can't keep up.
Okay. Next question.
This is Bindya from ADP, and I have a question. I believe that testing is a part and parcel of each and every product or technology that will be coming out. I have a question is like, how can we add more value to it to give a wow from our stakeholders to get a wow from them?
How can we get a wow from our stakeholders?
Can I take this one? The first thing in any job is genuinity, right? It shouldn't be that I'm going 9 o'clock to office to come out at 6. And somehow, this has come many times in my experience with people. So one is that if you really want wow, not only in testing, in any other activity, are you really into it? And if you are really into it, then it's not easy to learn the nuances to be a wow factor for any of the work. Coming back to the testing, as several of my friends here said, do you know the basics? Do you know what you are arguing upon? Do you know what you are doing? And do you know why you are doing that, right? So as there's no simple answer for this, but on a human perspective, if I have to think through that, immediately that comes to my mind is that am I doing it genuinely, or I'm just doing it because I'm being paid for it? So you have to draw a line between that.
So it's
Well,
the
in addition to all of-
testers' mindsets. Can we all develop into that mindset? That's what I have.
It is not about testers' mindset. It's about human mindset, right? So
Thank you.
Any more?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, in addition to everything he's just now said, a couple of things that I would look at, which I think I'd say wow to a tester would be, one, and I saw that in that survey as well, where cost was a very important aspect, right? And we talked about automation being another one, which was very key. So I think at the end of the day, we're all struggling today to bring the cost of the product down. So any aspect that anybody can chip in, whether it's development or test, and test actually amounts for about 30% of your product cost. So if you can bring that down by whatever methods that you use, whether it is Agile, whether it is, by sheer test automation that you bring into the product, whatever it is, if you're able to bring the cost component down and ensure that the bill of material is actually within or lower than what was chartered for, I think then you would get a wow, right, today, where cost is playing such a key role.
Okay, any more? Let me chip in again, might as well. If your desire is to have someone say wow, the impression I'm getting is that the people who are saying wow are suddenly very surprised. And I think one of our roles is almost to avoid giving senior people surprises, particularly bad ones. Okay? So my argument would be is we shouldn't be aiming to try and get people to give us huge prizes for Employee of the Month. And that would be very nice, of course, but that's not our ambition. I think we just need to up our game. We need to talk the language of people who are higher up. And I don't mean our boss, and I don't mean our boss's boss. I mean the CEO of the company. I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I think we have to close. Some years ago, I was involved in a project where a very large financial services company set up a very small business, a brand new business focus. And we got hired to help them with the testing. And the goal was to build a software product which was written by one company over here and hosted by a company over there. It was going to be resourced, I think, offshored, maybe over here, I don't know. Very complicated project in some regards, but with a very small team. And so I said, well, if you're hiring me to write the test strategy, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to do a bit of a risk workshop. So I wrote a letter to about 7 or 8 people who were engaged in it and said, we're going to have this risk workshop. I'm going to draft some ideas to get the ideas going. And we're going to settle on what the strategy should look like in outline. And, okay, the day arrived for the meeting, and people started to arrive. And one by one, people showed up. And then the CEO of the company came in. And I'd been introduced to him, but I didn't know him at all. But I just happened to know he was called David. And David came in and sat down and arranged his material. And he wasn't invited, okay? But I could hardly say, get out, And I said, well, I think we're all here. David, you weren't on the list. Can I ask you why you're here? And he said, I saw the agenda. And if I am not to be regarded as negligent in my duty to my shareholders. I must be at this meeting. That's where we should be. We should be up there at CEO level because we have knowledge that no one else in our businesses has. And our businesses need to know where they are and what threatens their achievement. That's where we should be. And that will give someone a wow factor. My suggestion. Okay, thank you to the panel. Fantastic. You've been really great. I think that's time.
Yeah, Paul, what we'll do is...
Do we not get a clap? Clap! Thank you.
Yeah, because there were many hands raised. So what we'll do is, just Paul, job is not yet over. So we'll get 3 questions directly, and then we'll ask the panel to answer it, and then we'll close it in 10 minutes. Does that sound fair? Because there are many passionate questionnaires. So, we'll start with you.
Thank you.
Overtime, okay. Got my referee's hat on again. Yeah. Okay.
I'm Prabir Das from Data Core. I had a very small question. It might be unpopular. We are increasingly using open source tools for testing automation, and we as testers are writing more and more amount of codes for using open source tools. So are we thinking of some process for peer review or checking of these codes that we are writing?
Can we have second question, please, Meeta?
Of the test.
We'll get the questions all together.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question which would take back to the certification thing that was going on. I wanted the mic then. So the question that I wanted to ask at that point in time was that you ran a survey yesterday and you had an important question there which said, should we have certifications or don't do certifications? And there was a percentage, if I can round it off, 40 to 60 kind of thing which came out. Where 60 said, we're not looking for certifications anymore. So do you think in the next gen, as we are looking ahead, what value does certification hold? Because me, coming from the middle management, where I deal with the hardcore technical teams at the ground, deal with the customers face-to-face, we realize a certification does not guarantee me a competency. It does not guarantee me a good job delivered to my client. So what do you think certification in tomorrow's date holds? I understand the concept when you say that initially it was conceptualized to get everybody on the same language, same level. I'm sorry, I've been speaking for 2 days, my throat has gone. So at the same level, so we kind of brought all these in. But then in today's day, there's so many dumps available of question bank and all. Basically, when a person gets certified and comes and gets a CV to me, if I have 100 CVs to interview, the ISTQB certification or anything of that kind goes to the bottom list of mine. Because I'm telling you the truth. Because what I realize that half of the time, they're only theoretical and it doesn't work out onto the competency that I'm looking to hire to onboard as a tester. So what do you think in the next gen would help you out? We have a lot of continued thought process on this. So I'll give it to Ajay to add his point.
Hi, I'm Ajay Balmukdas, and the question is, thanks Rex for accepting that many of us still see testers not applying the equivalence partitioning, right? We have learned the technique, it's so old, but then can you apply it right now? Most of times it's no. So what is the reason behind it? Is it because of lack of skills, like observation, questioning, quick learning, or even the basic skills of not knowing that these skills are more important than learning testing concepts, right? Thanks.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amod. I'm from Honeywell. Same question I asked yesterday also in the mobility session, that now we are seeing a problem of having different platforms in the mobile applications. And now after like say 20, 30 years in the software or in the PC tools, we are kind of a position where we can have some tools and all. But in the mobility application, we don't have any standardized tool and all. 10 years down the line, we will see that most of the pieces will get absolute and all the Android or BlackBerry OS and all those stuff will come. How we are going to tackle that problem? What about the standardization? What about the testing automation tools on the testing mobile application? Maybe after 10 years, It may not be the mobile application. It may be the PDA, or we can't.